So just a quick summary, right? This is a purpose-built Kubernetes native platform for hybrid cloud and networking AI ops, designed for today's hybrid cloud and networking ecosystem and tailored to meet the customer's needs. I think the big differentiator between us and most other organizations trying this is that AI was a founding principle. We didn't have a solution and we're trying to bolt AI on at the end as some widget or some assistant that doesn't really fit the platform. The platform was purpose-driven. The other thing is, I think from a year ago when Nitin presented here, it feels like 30 years have passed in the world of technology from a year ago. And I think a year ago there was still some, let's say, valid skepticism about artificial intelligence, generally speaking. Not questioning our solution or that we were, not able to do what we claim we can do, just a general uncomfortable unease about AI. A year has passed, and I think we've earned more, it's earned our trust, it's earned more comfort level. It's becoming something we do every day in our life, right? Is there anyone on the panel who's not used ChatGPT yet? Anyone? Is there anyone in the room? No, everyone has used this stuff, right? The other thing is, again, that envy of software. They have Copilot. It took him 10 minutes to write a Python script because he's got AI. Why is it taking me 3 days to write a network configuration file? Why is it taking me 5 hours to troubleshoot a network problem? And why don't I have the tools to do it? Everyone else has the tools. Well, now the tools are here, right? A Copilot for your infrastructure. You saw me do it from my phone through Slack. It works through Teams. It works through WebEx. And in our roadmap, we are really closing in on an MCP and adopting and embracing the next wave of artificial intelligence, which is Model Context Protocol. So, for example, Netbox has an MCP. Selector is working on an MCP. Our customers have been asking for MCP, so that way they can start extending Selector to connect with other solutions. So I'm very ahead of schedule here, but I'd love to thank you for your time. And I'd love to take more questions and comments.
Yeah.
Please.
So back on the ROI discussion.
Yes.
You focused very tangibly on 58 events, not 58 separate tickets, one ticket that summarizes everything that happened there. Are you taking the ROI discussion to the human level? So like, how is that? Do you have any good stories from your observation or customer reports on how that's freed up time? How that's enabled ops staff to do more? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so typically, as a vendor, we don't hear a lot of, hey, you guys are doing an awesome job and we love what you're doing. There's a lot of, hey, could you do this better? Or could you change this? But to that point, some of our customers speak about our solution publicly, right? Like we saw Jeremy at AutoCon speak about it and how Selector has become the cornerstone of their automation capability. I've spoken to other customers. So here's another example. We have a customer we're in a proof of concept with to close the loop on the automation, and they estimate it's going to save $500,000 a year for one recurring problem they have. They did the numbers on this, and they said every year we're spending about $500,000 in human and other capital to resolve some issue with a service provider that just happens constantly. It's just a routine thing. Those people, they've literally told their network staff, you do not have to deal with this problem anymore. And we're putting that $500,000 back into the organization. Why? Because Selector can not only detect the root cause, but now we can kick off an automated workflow to shut the port and let the service provider know, right? It's not something they can do anything about. It's a service provider issue, but now they can do something about it. They can shut the port, send the alert, open up a ticket, notify the provider through agents, and ideally, when they receive the notification that it's been resolved, re-enable the port and bring the service back up. So actual, truly tangible impact, right? Another customer had, it was funny, they had a pre and a post Selector kind of story for me. They had a firewall change that was approved, documented, approved, went into 5 pilot sites. Those 5 pilot sites were black holed from the network. Network team, no idea, looking at network stuff, right? Someone clues in 3 days later that this was an approved firewall change and we've rolled it back and now the sites are back online. Post Selector, they had a smart alert. These 5 sites are offline because of this firewall change,
Sure.
right? I mean, light bulbs go off. People go, whoa, wow, that is powerful, right? So I love hearing the success stories. So if you have success stories, please let me know, right? We're happy to hear the complaints and the improvement suggestions, but we'd love to hear your success stories.
Is there a
John, sorry, go ahead.
is there a way to introduce your own teaching into the network learning model? For instance, I'm sure I'm not the only one who's done this, but I've created routing level coupled systems to solve a specific problem.
Okay.
Something that may not be completely obvious to a traditional root cause analysis.
Okay.
But I'd like to be able to say, hey, these are the events that we saw. AI apps, you gave me a root cause. That's wrong. This is actually what happened. Is there a way to do that?
So yes, we do have a feedback loop in that you can thumbs down the answer, which feeds back to the model that the answer it provided was not valid or rejected by the user. So there is natural learning within the system. You can give it a thumbs down and it feeds back to itself. And then if you follow up, it will give you kind of a mea culpa, I was wrong, here's the correct answer, and try it again from its own learning. Part 2 of this is that we have a custom query dashboard. So let's start with the dashboard, right? I'll put a query in through SQL to create that view of what you wanted to see. From there, there's a natural language button that I put my human phrase in. This is John's custom unique situation or whatever, right? So then when you prompt it later, could you show me if there's anything going on with John's custom solution? It will then bring you that dashboard and that context that you set up as a query. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
So I like the show me the work bit. Can you pick apart every element of that show me the work and say, hey, this is where you went wrong, do this instead?
No. So yes, you can show the work and click on so it's by the show me the work, it's the knowledge graph. So it shows you the correlations that were made. And we have a sliding scale. Show me tighter coupling of correlations or looser coupling of correlations. So you get more or less lines in the correlation view. And then you can click on an individual node and it will give you the payload from that node to help reinforce why it answered the way it did. But currently our feedback loop is through the natural language. A thumbs down, this answer was incorrect, right? And that's happening less frequently as the models improve. So some of our customers who moved from, say, Llama to Gemini Flash 2, which has really big context windows, very fast, we're seeing really remarkable results from the Gemini model.
In terms of Selector.ai's sales cycle and who you're selling into, any observations about, are you seeing a shift in the personas? Are you selling to, say, AI teams more, chief AI officers?
Right.
And also, how's the sales cycle coming along in terms of, gaining more brand awareness and mind share out there in the ecosystem?
Yeah, so I'll work backwards. I think we've had a boom in the last 6 months or so in interest. I think partly because of Nitin's presentation at this event, which led to real customers and real customer engagement. But Stephen and the marketing team have put a ton of work. Gianna and Stephen and Dallin and Sachin, a concerted effort to be more engaging on LinkedIn, to have more blogs, to have more webinars, to get ourselves out there. And my role of trying to, evangelize AI at a high level, right? Mm-hmm. But also more focused on our product and our demonstrations and doing, engagements like this. We're going to hit 10,000 LinkedIn followers this week, probably. Our engagement is up 60 or 70% over the past few weeks and months. Stephen deserves a lot of the credit for that. He's a really hardworking guy. The other thing is there is customer to customer, right? And there's a little bit of fear of missing out going on, right? So I think as we grow, it's momentum, right? it'll start to snowball, and then eventually will become a recognizable name in the industry. I'm not sure that we're there yet. We have a lot of work to do. We've secured a booth at Cisco Live to help with our brand awareness as well. And I'm going to be speaking at Wireshark and ONUG and a bunch of other events, and AutoCon, hopefully. So no, things are going well. In terms of the market penetration, healthcare is very interested.
All right.
And it kind of makes sense, right? They want to put their money into new MRIs, right? Not more networking staff, right? So everyone's fighting for dollars, and we can fit in nicely to be an affordable solution that offers them digital workers, digital coworkers. Empower your existing staff with this new member of your team almost, right? I don't know if you saw Jensen Huang from NVIDIA's his keynote a few months ago. He believes that the IT department of the future is going to be an HR department for AI, right? That our jobs are going to completely change, and we're just going to be policing our agents to make sure that John's agent's talking to Bill's agent correctly, right? It's an interesting perspective. But healthcare is interested, finance is interested, anyone with big data is interested. ISPs, obviously, more and more ISPs are coming on board. Customers with like multicast challenges, different unique segments. It's funny when you offer a platform like this, the type of problems that come your way, and some are completely unique. A cruise ship with 2 data centers that's out in the middle of the ocean, and if there's a problem with their network, they're out in the middle of the ocean, right? So it's a lot of interest.
Right on. And you selling to networking teams mostly? Is any diversification of, across all these organizations who you're talking to?
So certain application teams are interested, but it primarily right now it's infrastructure teams, and
Right.
and I would say cloud teams and data center teams. And the interest tends to start with a network engineer. So it tends to be grassroots and from the bottom up. We don't get a lot of, we get some, but it's not a lot of CEOs. I want Selector and I want it tomorrow, and it gets pushed down into the org. It tends to come from practitioners and engineers who happen to have seen a video or a post or heard about it.
All right.
I'm thinking service provider, ISP type world. Obvious is going to be very useful to the network engineers and things like that. What about customers calling in? Do they or is there a simplified view for them so that, when they start asking things, the context is only in their VRF or, in their VPN setup? That provider?
That's a really exciting opportunity for us. So one of our large ISPs is looking to maybe monetize our solution as customer facing, which makes sense, right? They pay so much for our solution, and then they can turn around and maybe make a profit off of that solution, right? To offer a portal that customers can come in and say, here's my circuit ID, what's going on, right? So we are likely not going to do that, but our customers can use our platform as they will and can make it customer facing if they want with a few tweaks.
I just worry a little bit, accidentally hallucinates, tells me all about somebody else.
Yes.
Things of that nature. It's like, well, yeah, it's an answer, but it wasn't the right context and things of that nature.
I think risk is the only thing, exactly to your point. Risk is what's holding that back a little bit, and confidence and trust. But once we get there and have the appropriate guardrails, I think that you might start seeing some natural language interfaces from your service providers or other companies that is actually using Selector as the back end. Yeah, I can see that coming in the very near future. I don't want to name the ISP because I don't know if they want me to tell, but there is a major ISP looking at monetizing with a customer-facing portal.
Back to the sales, is it mostly direct or do you have indirect?
We do have a channel partners.
Okay.
So we do a certain amount of our business is done through channel partners, and a lot of it is direct though.
Okay.
Yeah.
So about 80% direct. Is there a way to?
Yes. Stephen, do you have maybe some numbers on our?
So we have a diversified go-to-market approach. We work with channel partners, like WWT, Myriad 360, Caresoft, Presidio, and, they are out there, augmenting our sales team. On the other side, through our marketing, business development, and sales team, we're working directly with the customers. And so it's really a multi-pronged approach. I'd say our revenue split is like 70-80% direct right now, and then the other is coming from channel. Customer referrals are also huge for us. So like, word of mouth is big. So a lot of our customers are telling their peers about it, and that's led to a lot of proof of concepts for us. And also, the biggest thing for us is we're focusing on showing the experience, like at Network Field Day, out at AutoCon, out at ONUG. A lot of the reactions we get, right, are, can you actually do this, right? And the written word only goes so far. But then when they see this actually happening, they're like, wow, this is real. So we're really focusing on showing the art of possible and what we can do. And we're really focusing on getting in front of the customers and the prospects and being, in their environment so they can see the reality of the solution. We've started to expand internationally now. We have an office out in Japan. We're doing all these in-person proof of value, proof of concepts, because we want to deliver a solution from day one that's working. So our focus is that POC is actually delivery ready at the end, right? Like you're ready to go on day one. So we've really invested a lot. Our engineers deserve all the credit for that. Our customer facing teams, they invest so much time into every, proof of value, proof of concept, because we're really focused on that customized use case, right? We want it to work for them. Not every network's built the same. Everyone's got different data layers, data lakes, we can't normalize one fit all solution. So we focus on making sure they get the value from day one and work with them to make their data work for them.
Good to see that momentum. And that springs to mind the question, say over the next 12 months, how will Selector be defining success? I mean, what are some guidelines, mileposts we can look at?
Yeah, so, we're on track to, again, this year, double our customer base up. We've really been doubling every year, and our net retention is actually the thing we're most proud of. So we land a customer, they're expanding by 70 to 100% after year one from their initial use case to the next. So the product becoming sticky and becoming valuable and expanding to other departments, other teams, other business units. That's how we're kind of defining success right now, that land and expand motion. We want to be seen as that augmented team to our customers so they feel Selector as part of their DNA.
Yes, and I definitely see how it's helping improve, network intelligence and so forth, and also saw, business outcomes invoked during the whole conversation by John. And I guess anecdotally or tangibly, what are the business outcome tie-ins? Are they saying, well, with Selector, not only are we gaining these network benefits, but it's also improving these specific business outcomes?
So let's think operational efficiency, right? One of our customers, I can't name them obviously, but we know the average cost of a ticket is $2, right? Before Selector, they were generating 150,000 tickets a month, right? And that was costing them close to $4 million a year.
Just in the tickets.
Just the ticket
not
cost.
solving the problems or human cost, just in tickets.
Right. We reduced that down to $40K a year.
That's
a simple, operational impact there.
And that's just the cost of the tickets. That doesn't include the ripple effect of how much more free time everyone has because they're not fighting 150,000 tickets a year, right?
Yes. All right.
And also think of, your engineer's happiness, right? Who wants to spend all day going through all these dashboards, all these spreadsheets, stitching together the data? If you can knock that out in under an hour, and then all of a sudden you can spend your time innovating, your engineers are much happier. They're doing things that are more impactful in the business, growing the business. And it's also, what's an outage worth to you? We've talked to multiple people that hey, an hour down is $2 million in lost revenue, right? If we can take away that hour and those maintenance windows and make them more visible and they're ready for them, it's just so much more impactful. And a saying I think of in my head, right, is instead of worrying about that next incident, you're inviting it in a way because you're ready to deal with it. You're not afraid that all hell's going to break loose, right? And you have to drop everything. Every team's panicking. You're going to have all these angry customers coming. You can get to resolution so much quicker because you have access to that data in one single point instead of trying to log in everywhere and talking to every team across the globe. And then sometimes you have to have, down detector yelling at you and, you got all these angry fans on X and everywhere else, screaming for your names for 10 hours. That is very tangible to, your business's reputation. And that's why we really focus on companies where the network is the revenue driver, right? If that's their focus and that's how the business operates, there's so much value for Selector there, right? We're not a fit for everyone. We don't try to be. A small network that, has like 100 devices and, they did a pretty good job setting it up. They don't have a lot of downtimes. It works for what they need. We're probably not the fit there, right? But if you have thousands of devices or you have a 500 to 1,000, right? And that downtime is mission critical. We're a great fit there and we can help tell that story and we evangelize those teams.
Yeah, it's definitely sounding like you're improving the workforce
Yeah.
experience and playing an integral role in transforming the culture, making coming here, less arduous and, quite simply more fun.
And, I've always found it rare. I've been, in marketing for over 15 years now. Customers and enterprise are the hardest to get to talk about you, right? Whether it's behind closed doors, out in the public. Our customers are so happy with the outcomes. They're talking about us, whether it's in public at conferences or whether it's behind closed doors, referrals, whatever we need. Like they really believe in the value we're showing them. And to me, that's something I've never seen before because usually they're very protective about what they're using.
Right.
There's all these guardrails. They're very willing to work with us because they're so happy with what we've provided them.
Good to see.
Thank you.
On the mix of deployment models and the work that it takes to adapt it to a customer environment, how is that working in terms of, are you relying on those reseller resources to do implementation? Do you do custom education for your customers? Do you need resident engineers? What's the mix of resources there?
Yeah, we try to do it as a service, data science as a service, right? So there's certain things, syslog, SNMP, GNMI, it's pretty standard stuff we can deal with. Sometimes you're still dealing with XML or you're still dealing with some custom implementation or, so the work happens on our end though, right? Now we have had customers delay until they got their data sorted out,
Okay.
right? So here's an example of something like a source of truth, a netbox or an Autobot, right? We had a customer that didn't have one. We would stand that up for you as part of our deployment. We will stand that up because it's
One of those third-party tools.
One of those third-party tools. We can help you get your source of truth in order because without that, right, we don't have we don't want to release a solution that's missing a huge piece of metadata and all you get is IP and MAC addresses,
right?
Not locations or racks or whatever, right? So there is a level of customization that we can work together with the organization. But and I don't think it's arrogance, our data team says, bring whatever you want, bring the data to us. Just on the point about Selector, again, this is my first time with a startup, and what I find remarkable is just how much we can achieve with such a small team. There's less than 150 employees, but compared to a giant barge in the ocean, a little kayak is nimble and can pivot and change directions very quickly, right? So, MCP was announced in December, 3-4 months ago. Our team's working on an implementation. That's how nimble we can be. And we're all working together with the same goal. We all want to make Selector, a $1 billion company with lots and lots of customers, with global, growth and become a name brand. We're all rowing in that same direction. So it's been a remarkable journey just culturally for me to join a startup and see how hard we work. And, they buy me loud shirts if I ask them to, whatever they need, whatever I need. So we've got about 15 minutes left. If there's any other questions or comments, we're happy to take them.
I had another question on like tenancy, multi-tenancy. So you showed, each customer has their own, bespoke environment where their data is safe and separate from the others.
Right.
But is there additional hierarchies in multi-tenancy? For example, for like, if I'm an MSP,
right,
I want to have this and I want all of my customers in Selector, but I want to make sure their data stays separate.
Right.
Or to, like John mentioned, like exposing it from a larger service provider and they just want to make sure that customer's data stays separate. Is in one, I guess, logical instance, is there a concept of another layer of hierarchy? We
would likely have that similar view of 3 customers,
okay,
but within a customer.
I see.
So we might have, even if it's the finance department doesn't want their finance data incorporated into the manufacturing data. We can deliver micro network language models. It's just spinning up more pods.
I see.
And then from a tenancy point of view, if I'm an engineer from tenant 1 and I'm asking how's the health of my network, it will only reflect my instance of the network language model.
Okay. Now, is there additional complexity on like the source of truth site? Do you have to have like different set of sources of truth for every single one of them?
Yeah, ingestion to specific data lakes.
Okay.
That is another layer of complexity and challenge, multi-tenancy, but we can deal with it. We have dealt with it. The other point I wanted to make, Stephen brought up a good point about tool consolidation. You notice I didn't say here that we're here to replace anything, right? I'm not here to replace your SolarWinds or rip out that solution you've had for 15 years. Healthcare brought this up when I was thinking about it. We're going to augment it, right? So if you're sending everything into SolarWinds, we can tap into SolarWinds API and bring that data over. And over time, we'll start to gradually phase that out or shift that out, right? It's an augmentation, just like AI is augmenting people. Selector is augmenting your existing tools and your existing processes with a goal in mind of being the only tool that you need. But we're not here to rip and replace some existing solution. And that could be.
John,
Go ahead.
yeah. Does Selector, I don't know if you covered it already, I apologize if you did, but does Selector have a discovery capability?
Yes. Yes, we do. We can go out and discover your network for sure, yes, through our collectors. We
see the diagram of, hi, Carol, again. You mapping the network. So back to your operational twin.
Yeah, we can map it in this sense.
It's a little high.
Yeah, you want core distribution access.
I would like you to map my data center and give me tools that I can put into Visio and look at it again.
Okay.
And then I want to change something, and can we do that yet?
Not yet. Not yet. Multimodal capabilities are coming though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, it's a good question.